types of pattern making. Yes. What all things did we discuss in the last class?
The types of pattern making, draped and flat pattern, then the measurements, select room for movement. Then we talked about the grain line, seam allowances, muscling.
We talked about the terminologies that is related to pattern making, right? Yes. Now, so can you tell me what flat pattern method is? Flat pattern method. And now?
Yes, ma'am.
Flat pattern method.
One minute, ma'am.
Okay. So anyone else? Flat pattern method. So there are two different types, right, to develop. Two methods to develop a pattern. One is a flat pattern method. The other one is draping method. So what is mean by a flat pattern method? How we develop a pattern using flat pattern method.
In this type, measurements are taken from the bodies or
The body, yes. And then using certain steps, we develop a pattern on a piece of paper.
yes,
Right.
step.
Yes. Yes, that is what flat pattern method. Yes. You know what is a draping method, right? In this method, a piece of two-dimensional fabric is draped directly on a dress form or a figure and made it to fit on the dress form to achieve the desired look or shape. Yes. So these are the two different methods of pattern making. In this chapter, we will be learning in detail flat pattern. We will be learning about flat pattern method in detail. Yes. So what is a block and what is a pattern? What is a block and what is a pattern? What is a block and what is a pattern? How they are different and how they are similar. Yes, Steffi.
It includes the easy allowance.
Which includes?
Block.
Okay, block includes the
easy allowance, which allows the body to move freely.
Okay. What about pattern? It's actually the other way around. Okay. It's actually pattern. Pattern will be having all the details like the seam allowance, the dart, the grain line, and all the basic information that is needed for developing a garment. Okay. For cutting the fabric. So all the basic information regarding that will be there on pattern, whereas blocks will not be having it. Okay. So using a block, we will be developing patterns for different styles. Okay. Yes. So that is what a pattern and a block is. Yes. So what is a muslin? What is a muslin? What is a muslin? It's an unbleached, plain woven, unbleached cotton. That is what a muslin is, right? Unbleached, plain woven cotton. That is what muslin is. Yes. Explain grain line. Explain grain. Yes. Raina? Explain grain.
The lines we draw during the pattern making.
No. Grain line. The direction in which a fabric is supposed to be cut. The direction in which a pattern is supposed to be kept on a piece of fabric. So three different types of grain lines are there. Straight grain line is there. Cross is there. Bias or diagonal is there. So what is a straight grain line?
It is parallel to the fabric.
Parallel to the fabric selvage. Parallel to the fabric selvage. What about cross? Perpendicular to the selvage. Perpendicular to the selvage. So if this is a piece of fabric, okay, if this is a piece of fabric, so a piece of fabric is rectangular shaped, right? So it will be having two selvages. Two selvages. This is the width and this is the length. This is the length and this is the width. So they will be having two selvages. And the width region, it will be row ended only. Okay, so it will be having two selvages. A single piece of fabric will be having two selvages. 1 minute. If if this is the pattern, okay, if this is the pattern and this is the center front, okay, if this is the pattern and this is the center front, if the center front is supposed to be kept parallel to the selvage, then that is straight. Or we can just call it, if the this is straight, okay, this is selvage, right? These two are the selvage. So if the grain line is straight parallel to the selvages like this, then it is a straight grain line. Okay, if the grain line, if you are supposed to keep the pattern, if the grain line is mentioned cross, you're supposed to keep it like this, then the center front is perpendicular to the selvage, right? This is the center front. So if it is kept like this is the selvage, then here now the selvage is perpendicular to the center front. This is cross. Okay, this is cross. And if the pattern is kept like this, it is diagonal or bias. It is diagonal or bias. So these are the three grain lines. Okay. Straight, cross, and bias or diagonal. So three types of grain lines. So grain lines all will be mentioned on your pattern, whether you're supposed to keep it straight, whether you're supposed to keep it cross, bias or diagonal, everything will be there mentioned on your pattern. Yes. 1 minute. Now, what is a dart? What is a dart? What is a dart? What is a dart?
It's the triangular shape marked on the pattern for the fit of the garment.
Yes, it's a triangular shaped or a wedge shaped mark on our pattern which provides fit or shape to our garment. It gives a perfect fit, right? It gives perfect fit. Yes. So that is what a dart is. What all measurements are required for developing a front bodice, a sleeveless bodice? What all measurements are required for developing a sleeveless bodice? What all measurements are required for developing a sleeveless bodice? What all measurements are required? What all measurements are required? Just analyze this figure and tell me what all measurements are required for developing a basic bodies. Front. Okay, front pattern.
Waist around.
Waist around, yes.
Bust around.
Yes, bust around is required.
Shoulder blade.
Shoulder length is required. Shoulder slop is required. Right. Neck depth is required. Full length is required. Bust point or apex is required. So how will we find the apex while developing a pattern? How can we find the apex point? So we will be marking the bust around. We will be marking the shoulder slop, right? So the shoulder tip to center front at the waist, right? So while marking, there will be an intersection point, or either you can just measure the distance. The center front line will be there on your bodies. So you just need to calculate the difference between the first bust point and the second bust point and divide by half. Divide by 2. So half of it. So if it is 7 inches apart, then 7 by 2, so 3.5. So the distance from the center front point to the apex is 3.5. So you just need to mark that point on your shoulder slop. Okay, you don't have to worry about the pattern development process. We will discuss it. Okay, during the offline classes, we will be discussing these practicals in details. But you're supposed to know all these methods or what all measurements are required for developing a basic bodies. Okay. So what all measurements are required for developing a skirt pattern?
Waist around. Hip
Waist
around.
around, yes.
Hip around.
Hip around, yes.
Length of the skirt.
Full length of the skirt, yes. So what is the hip depth? How will we know where the hip is?
From waist 7 inches.
Yes, from waist 7 inches down, right? So what if we want a dart at the waist? Whether it is a basic skirt or a basic bodies. Let's just talk about the basic bodies. What if I want a dart at the waist? If the waist around is 28 inches, okay. While developing basic bodies pattern, if the waist around is 28 inches, we will be dividing it by 4, right? Am I right? We will be dividing it by 4. So what if I want a 1-inch dart or a 3 by 4 inch dart? What am I supposed to do? Everyone, please keep your videos on. I want a 1-inch dart, okay, on my basic bodies at the waistline on both sides. Okay, so let's just talk about one side. Front bodies, one side with a 1-inch dart, and the total waist around is 28 inches. Okay, which makes it 7 inches for one side of the front bodies. So 1-inch dart. What am I supposed to do? Should I take the intake from the 7 inches itself, or should I give extra 1 inch while developing pattern, while considering the waist measurement? Should I take it 8, or should I just keep it 7 itself?
Take it 8.
I'm supposed to take 8. Otherwise, after the dart intake, the total waist measurement will be 6, right? For one side, one of the front side, the total waist measurement will be just 6 inch. Am I right? Hmm? Which will affect the total structure of the garment. So I'm supposed to, if I'm going to take a 1-inch dart, then I'm supposed to add that 1 inch while developing pattern. Okay. So just like that, 1 inch to the front, one front right side, and 1 inch to the front left side. What about back bodies? So when it comes to back bodies, so the back part of your body is not curvier than your front, right? So you don't need a dart which is 1 inch. You don't need a 1-inch dart. Okay. You just need a 1.5 inch or 1/4 inch dart. Okay, that a smaller one, just to give a perfect fit. That is enough. You don't need a 1-inch dart at your back. You just need a 1-inch dart at the front. Okay. That goes with the skirt also. When it comes to skirt, the back part is more curvier, right? So the bigger dart should be there at the back pattern. Whereas we don't need much bigger darts at the front. Okay. Yes. Yes. So I just want to tell you guys once more, you guys will be having a test on Thursday. Okay, class test on Thursday, and the marks will be shared with the chairman. So I want now. So now we know about the measurements, right? Which all measurements are required and all. And now we will just, I will just share the screen. Let's just see the images. Okay. So all pins to, so these pins. So these pins, these push pins and all, these are used while pattern making. Okay. So pattern, both the push pins are used for pattern making. So while tracing the pattern onto a piece of cloth, you can just pin this onto the fabric using a ball pin or these push pins. Okay, while transferring a block, while developing a pattern using a block, also you need these push pins. Okay, so that is push pins. So this is basically a pin cushion, which is used for holding these pins. Okay, so so pin cushions like a watch is also available out there. These things are not necessary for you guys. So this is actually a scissor. You know, it's actually a scissor. It's actually a fabric scissor. So fabric scissor and a paper scissor is, both of them are really different. Okay. Both of them are really different. When it comes to paper scissor, It will be like this. Okay. So paper scissor will be like this. Whereas in the case of uh, fabric scissor, as you can see, one side is flatter, right? One side is flatter. Is it clear? One side of a fabric scissor will be flatter, and that side, that flatter side, will be coming in contact with the table. So in order to make the cutting process steady and neat, one side of the fabric scissor is flat. And this one is a seam ripper. This one is a seam ripper. This is used to remove stitches. Okay. So if you make any mistakes while stitching, you can just remove the stitches using this seam ripper. It's really time consuming. It saves your time. It's not time consuming, it saves your time actually. So if you sit there trying to remove your stitches using those pins and all, it is really time consuming. So you can just easily remove those stitches using a seam ripper. Actually, this U shape, you can see a U shape right here. At the inside. Here, there is a blade. It's a sharpened region. It acts as a blade actually. Okay. That C curvy region, it acts as a blade. So it is really easy to remove the stitches. It's just cut the stitches. Then it's just a grading scale, measuring tape, you know. This one is a paper scissor. This is a pinking shears. This is a pinking shears actually. So pinking shears are zigzag shears. Okay, zigzag. So if you cut a piece of fabric or if you cut a piece of paper using a pinking shears, the edges will be like this. Okay, the edges will come out like this. So that is what a pinking shear is. So pinking shear is actually used to cut the fabrics, which is cut the edges of fabric, which is having raveling property, which ravels out easily. So in order to secure the edges, we use pinking. So finishing row edges. Yes, so these are the basic, this you know, permanent pen, colored pencil, all these can be used for while developing patterns. Yes, owl to make holes, paper cutter, you know, iron box, tailor's chalk, tracing paper, that one is a notch marker. Where is it? So this one is a notch marker. You know what is a notch markers, right? In order to produce those cuts, small cuts on your patterns to show the tailor that you're supposed to stitch through this particular region. So in order to balance your patterns, in order to match your patterns, we will leave certain marks. So in order to create those marks, this notcher is used. That is a notcher, okay? That is a notcher. Yes, this one. This one is a tracing wheel. Okay, that's a tracing wheel. You're supposed to, you use this tracing wheel to transfer all those markings from your pattern to your fabric. Okay, so it leaves marks on your fabric without the help of a choke or a tracing paper. Instead of tracing wheel, you can just use a tracing paper or a choke also. Okay, so all the purpose of this and this is just same. It is used to transfer the marks. Yes. Then styling tape. Styling tape is actually used on dress form. Okay. So in order to mark the shoulder line, the center front line, bust line, waistline, side seam, neckline, for all those purpose, the styling tapes are used. Okay. And it comes to draping and all. Okay. Any doubts so far? Any doubts? Just simple, right? Sizes and measurements done. So what is mean by ease? What is mean by ease? Tell me what is mean by ease. Tell me what is mean by ease. Ease of movement. You might have heard this, right? Ease of movement. So whatever you are wearing right now, whether it is a tight-fitted garment or anything, it still have a little bit of ease, a room for movement, right? A room for comfort, right? It will not be too tight. So if you check your armhole also, armhole, armhole, you know, right? Armhole. So it will not be too fitted. It will have a little bit of ease there in order to make your hand movement easy, right? Otherwise, it will be too uncomfortable over this armhole region, right? So a 1 inch while measuring armhole, a 1 inch or a thumb distance, okay? 1 inch or thumb distance will be left extra. Okay, we will calculate a thumb distance or a 1 inch extra while taking armhole around. Okay, so if the perfect armhole around is 15 inches, we will just take it as 16 inches. Okay, so that is to provide ease, room for movement. So that is what is really necessary. So that wearing a beautiful garment will not suffocate us. So for that purpose, we are providing ease. It is really necessary. So while developing a pattern also, we are supposed to take ease. So while calculating bust around also, okay. So while calculating bust around also, we will be calculating bust around in such a way that we will be able to we will be keeping our thumb in between. So that much ease will be given while calculating the bust around. We will be using a tape. We will be keeping it like this, right? While taking a bust around measurement. So we will just keep our thumb in between. Okay, we will just keep our thumb in between to make sure that it is not too tight. Okay, so that the measurement is not too perfect. And if the bust around is 32, you are supposed to take it 33. Okay. So that it will not be, so it will be comfortable enough for you to move. So that is what ease is. So garment fitting. So fit of a garment. When can we say that the garment is completely perfect or a perfectly fitted one? So your armhole, if you check your garment, there will be a shoulder line, right? A shoulder joint will be there. It is not supposed to be fall behind or fall front. It is supposed to be in the exact same point. Okay. It is supposed to be at your shoulder. And here you can see the armhole. Feel the armhole, right? It is not supposed to go upper or downer. It is supposed to be here. I don't know, where should I bring? Okay, so the armhole is supposed to be here. Mine is like here. Supposed to be here. Okay, the armhole is supposed to be here. Okay. And the sleeve side seam is supposed to be here. And our side seam here. Okay. Like that, each and everything is having a position. The center front, it is not supposed to move left or right. It was supposed to fall at the center front itself, at the exact center. Okay. So all these things make the garment fit perfect. Okay. Yes. I want you guys to, so elements of fit. The evaluation of fit is actually based on, I will just share the screen. The evaluation of fit is based on 5 classical elements: grain line, fit, line, balance, and ease. You know what is ease, you know what is a balance, right? You know what is a grain, set. So the garment shouldn't be made of the front pattern shouldn't be of a small size, and the back pattern shouldn't be of a larger size. So you're supposed to make sure that all the patterns are arranged perfectly. Okay, it's matching, it's balanced. It's of this particular set. And the grain line, all the patterns are cut in a straight bias or cross line. You're supposed to make sure all these factors. Okay. So the 5 elements. The evaluation of fit is based on 5 elements, that is grain, set, line, balance, and ease. So I want you guys to read your textbook thoroughly. Okay. So the next is all about armhole, how the fit of your shoulder should be, the thing that we just discussed now. Okay, the bust point or the dart. When we create a dart, the end of the dart, the pointed part, it should be facing towards, it should be pointing towards the apex point or the bust point. It shouldn't be to the right or to the left. It should be perfectly pointing towards the apex point. Okay, so the position of the dart should be like that. So slash and spread method, you know, it is slash and spread method is used to transfer your waist dart or your any dart from this point to another point, right? So just read your textbook thoroughly. We will be discussing the remaining portions on Thursday. Okay, so I guess our time is done.